Welcome all to another SRS podcast. Today I'm the host, Jeff Mullen. Today we have quite a few of our member guests joining us. We have a little bit different vantage point than the usual research presentations. We're joined by the History Society today, talk about their work, building on the legacy of our predecessors throughout SRS. And so we're talking about some of those shoulders that we stand on today. So before we get going, maybe we can go around and all the guests introduce themselves, and then we can talk about their presentation.
So I'll start. I'm Jay Shapiro out of Austin, Texas, and I'm actually the current historian for the SRS and have been in this position for over 4 years now. And then I'll throw it to our next historian to come, Andy.
I'm Andy King. I'm recently retired orthopedic surgeon from New Orleans. From my accent, you can see that I'm originally from New Zealand, but I've been in the US for 45 years now.
George, why don't you go next?
Yeah, I'm George Thompson, and I'm the immediate past historian for the SRS. I'm also a past president as well. I've been on the committee for probably decades. It's just been a long, long time, and I look forward to staying with it for well into the future. I look at this as a very important aspect of who we are in the SRS. We have tremendous history, and it's important that it be recorded and documented by those who actually were performing it during that time.
Beiruz?
I'm Beiruz Akbarnia. I'm in San Diego, California. I'm also the past historian too, before George Thompson, and same past president of SRS. And I'm now as an advisory capacity for the historical committee of SRS. Thank you.
And Rick, you want to?
Yeah, hi, I'm Rick Schwen. I'm on the committee. I live in Kansas City, so I'm fortunate to have physical access to the SRS archives. That's quite a benefit for me living here. Thank you.
So I'll introduce Katie and actually give you a little bit of history. Katie Dold is our archivist, and we're extremely happy that she's with us. She's going to be on the podcast with us. We hired Katie over a year ago, and I'm happy to report that with the support of the board and the society, Katie's going to be with us for at least another 3 years, and most of us hope for a long, long time after that. Little bit of background, the reason for an archivist is not only just to put things in position and catalog and document things. Katie has become an integral part not only of this committee, but also an incredible resource, and is going to be an incredible resource for the members. She is able to help members find things in the archives, do whatever research they want to on historical aspects. She can be helpful for people who are doing talks and want to get some slides or information about some historical perspectives, or even if you're writing a research paper and want to get some historical perspective of what's going on and what we have available, she can easily do that. And from our standpoint, the biggest thing that has happened over the last year or so is that Katie has become an incredible content expert in a short period of time of not only what has happened in the society, but also is continuing to gain knowledge and knowledge base on spine deformity and the history of spine deformity. So she's a great asset. Katie, I'll let you introduce yourself and where you're at right now.
Yeah, so I am Katie Dold. I am the SRS archivist. I am currently in the archives. If you're watching this video, you'll see all the archives boxes behind me. As Dr. Schwinn said, the SRS archives are located in the University of Kansas Medical Center archives in Kansas City, Kansas. So if you're in the area, please stop by at any point. Yeah, and the SRS archives are just such a treasure of information. And they host so much more than just like board documents, but they're also histories of people in the society. There are influencer videos, and there are just so many other things that people come to me looking for information on, whether that is dates for different awards that people have gotten, like FDA approvals for instrumentation, for writing biographies or obituaries for important members in the society, people looking for meeting photos or photos of their mentors, or things on the founders of the SRS, or basically anything you can dream up of that's spinal deformity or SRS related, we probably have in the archives.
And Katie, can you explain to our listeners why are the archives located in Kansas City?
Yeah, so they are in Kansas City because Dr. Paul Harrington went to KU School of Medicine, and after he passed, he willed his archives to us at KU Med. And following in those footsteps, after the Harrington archives were established, the SRS archives followed in that path too. And so we have now grown quite an extensive spine and orthopedics collection that's not only the Harrington archives and the SRS archives, but also Walter Blount's collection and Dr. Mark Asher's collection and several local Kansas City orthopedic surgeons too.
And I want to give one quick plug to a fascinating book called Dogged Persistence, which is based off a lot of those history there. And with that, I'd encourage all the readers who hopefully are nerdy like me, get that book and read it. It's quite enjoyable. And with that, Dr. Shapiro, do you want to take over your presentation?
Sure. We'll start off with a little bit. Beiruz, if you'll talk a little bit about actually an ongoing research project that we have happening right now.
The archive is not just housing documents and material and artifacts, but one of the best features of archives is to have access to all the abstracts of papers that were presented since day one. So since 1966 to date, we have almost about 9,000 to 10,000 abstracts that are searchable, and you can go there and try to look at the trends and any research that is the aim. In addition to that, there are other documents in the archives that indicates the research and things. So one of the things that we are just now engaged is to trying to figure out the techniques and things that has been in the past that was introduced for the care of spine deformity. Some of them were successful and some of them were not. And so we're looking at those using the archive material to see how they develop, what was the unmet need at the time, and why they were successful and some were not. So I think the examples of it, like SRS electrical stimulation for treatment of scoliosis, as something that was popular, but then was not, was really not successful. And then the other good example of success is introduction of pedicle screw. That those two things are now being investigated. There's a lot of other things that isn't just as an example. So it really encourage everyone if they have ideas, things that they want to know the history and they want information to contact us and Katie and SRS to get information that they need.
So thanks, Beiruz. Andy, why don't you tell us a little bit about one of the things that's kind of going on now with Jacqueline Perry?
Yes. Well, we in the committee are tasked to write biographies, particularly of Lifetime Achievement Award winners and some of the founding fellows of the Scoliosis Research Society. One that I was tasked with writing was on Jacqueline Perry. And I thought I knew a little bit about Jacqueline Perry because when I finished my orthopedic training in New Zealand, I applied for a fellowship with her at the Ranchos Los Amigos Hospital, but was unsuccessful, unfortunately. But when I received all the material from the archives from Katie, I got a whole new picture of her and a much more profound respect, even amazement at her accomplishments. A lot is made of the fact that she was the only female founding person, and indeed, at the time, there were only 10 female orthopedic surgeons in the whole of the United States, and she was one of them. But it's interesting that when you read the archive material, she herself sort of brushed that aside. She said gender was never very important to her. The most important thing was her passion for her work and the knowledge of orthopedics, and that comes out when you read her biography. The focus of her work was disability, rehabilitation, bioengineering. Possibly that started because she started off during World War II at Walter Reed Hospital as a therapist, first a physical PE and then physical therapy. And then she got so immersed in the work, she wanted to be more of an actual doctor. So she went out to California, went to medical school, then did her orthopedic training, and then moved to the Rancho Los Amigos Hospital, which she built up to be world famous, particularly in disability and rehabilitation. Now, the rehabilitation she had to start with was polio. And I've seen pictures of about 20 iron lungs all lined up, for these poor polio cases. And of course, later on, when the polio vaccine came up, that dried out, but she became very interested in a thing called post-polio syndrome. But I go back to the start of my career, there were still a number of cases with very severe polio left over that I had to operate on. And I found those some of the most difficult scoliosis cases that I'd ever done. There was a lot of rotation. They were very stiff. And so I can understand her problem. Now, when you look at treating scoliosis caused by polio, because it was so severe, she started many different treatments, particularly halo distraction, halo body casts, gradual treatment, which still are used in various forms today. But she was the one that really started those. She also had a great interest in engineering. And one of the things she started for disabled people was gait analysis laboratory. She was really the start of gait analysis. She wrote a textbook on it, which is still used today. And I found in her archives also that she got analyzed other things apart from just gait. She analyzed the golf swing, for example, from a biomuscular type of analysis. So I would encourage many young orthopedic surgeons to read about her, and what comes out is just focus and passion on her work. Now, since she died, and she died at the age of 95, interestingly, she gave a Lifetime Achievement Award lecture to the Scoliosis Research Society at age 90, which is pretty incredible. That because she was a female, she's become really an idol or an icon for women in orthopedics, and particular women in scoliosis surgery. She was one of the founding 5 members of the Ruth Jackson Society, which still you'll find most women orthopedic surgeons belong to. But I found something else in the research, that there is something was started afterwards called the Perry Initiative. This was started by a Dr. Latanza, who was a very young female orthopedic surgeon under Dr. Perry, who Dr. Perry took aside and really encouraged. And many years after Dr. Perry died, Dr. Latanza joined with a Dr. Buckley to form the Perry Initiative. And they now have 30 centers throughout the United States. And basically what they do is take high school seniors or young people in medical school, women, and give them a taste of what orthopedics is like. They go into labs, they have bones, they cut it, they place rods, they put screws and plates and do everything. And it's really quite amazing that this really makes a lot of young people very interested in orthopedics. So just to sum up, I would say that I'm very thankful for the Historical Committee for the ability to be able to look up a biography on a person like Jacqueline Perry. And we really couldn't do it without the archives that we have and the material that we have, which is, it's all there if you want to go look. And so thank you very much, Katie, for helping us along with this.
So Andy, to kind of tie into that, one of the things that's available to all members is on the website, we have not only lists of who were Lifetime Achievement Award winners, who were founders, who were past presidents, but also increasing numbers of biographies. And then there are interviews with all these people. And in fact, we'll give you a little taste of that with a clip of the interview with Jacqueline Perry talking about her development of the halo traction process.
Yes.
So we'll cut to that now so that everybody can kind of get a taste. But there are a large number of interviews, both video and audio, available on the website, and especially easy to get to. So we'll go ahead.
In your video, what you'll see is she did not shy away from the difficult cases. In fact, that was what she really enjoyed working on. And the halo distraction apparatus is for difficult cases.
Tell me about the skull halo, Jackie, because your name is your name and the late Vern Nickel is always linked with the development of the skull halo.
Well, we did it. The history of it is that actually we started out with some patients who had very unstable necks from paralysis and even had trouble speaking and swallowing. And so we tried hone wires, which are really just wire loops through the burr holes in the skull. And that's why I did 2 of those so I could position the neck. Well, that was only with traction, and we used to have to use pads behind the neck to get the right lordosis, and that wasn't very practical. It was a little hard on the skin, like pressure sores. So then Vernon Nickel went to a meeting, and he learned about this tiara, an incomplete loop that they were using for facial maxillary work.
What was this?
Well, it's like an incomplete crown, like a tiara that goes.
Oh, tiara, yes.
And that's what it was. It was 2 3/4 circles with pins done by a man named Bloom, who used them for facial maxillary frames so they could pull out the faces. Mm-hmm. And Vernon brought that home as the answer. And so
where did he saw this in
a polio meeting in Houston? So somebody was talking about facial maxillary work. I'm not sure why, but anyway, this is 1956. He came home with it, and so I stuck it on, and it promptly broke with all the extra holes in it. So then we made a full circle, and then we made an arch in the back so we could get to the upper cervical spine, because I was going up to C2, in fact, the oxford sometimes, and put it on a frame. And our original frame went way up in the air, about 5 or 6 inches, because these collapsing spines, you'd pull them up that much. You just when you straighten them out. Of course, you don't need that with fractures today.
No.
And we put it on body casts. It went clear down to usually involved their thighs. And then we initially started for the neck, and then pretty soon we used it for traction for the entire spine. And then of course, and that was great. It worked fine. And then that was the framework also for our osteotomies, and it was just a way of holding the whole spine. And of course, later it was simplified to, the framework was simplified for fractures.
We got on, I think you saw the first halo pelvic sets we developed in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I put the first halo on there.
You did, actually, yes.
Yeah, come think of it, that was why I went to Hong Kong.
Was it to get the halo started, was it?
That's right, and then Arthur didn't have a use for it.
Arthur Gow.
And so one day, finally, he had a case. So, well, we had it cooked and sterilized, and it was sitting in the corner. And so one day he had a case he couldn't stabilize the neck. So very quickly we suddenly put on a halo, and that started.
Hopefully everybody enjoyed that video and audio clip, and just kind of a taste of what's available. But we have interviews with a lot of people who develop techniques that everybody uses on a regular basis, and it's really interesting to listen to the people on how they develop that. And it also probably is important for members who are in the process of trying to develop procedures and processes to understand how a lot of the things that we take for granted were developed. Rick, I'm going to ask you, if you can, to maybe talk a little bit about the archive itself and just having the availability of the archives there, and kind of not only that, but also what's available on the website.
Yes, thanks, Jay. As far as the archives, it's a great place to visit. I know Kansas City is not a place everybody just shows up, but if you do happen to be in the area, Katie Gold is the person to contact, and she can arrange a visit for you. We'll get you free parking and directions how to actually get to the archives. Alex also has been very helpful. Once you go to the archives, it's not just the Scoliosis Research Society archives. There's also the Paul Harrington collection that Mark Asher was very instrumental in organizing. And then, of course, besides that is the whole historical collection for the University Medical Center is there as well. So whatever you're interested in, there's a lot of options for you to experience this. The key thing is just making direct communication with Katie and then she'll arrange to have material available to you. And you don't have to physically show up as well. You can arrange for Katie to give you access to material that you might need for whatever project you're working on. And I just want to make a little plug for the website. If you haven't been to the historical part of the website, it's a wealth of information. If you have a little bit of time to just look through it, you go to the home page, and then at the last column, it says SRS History and Archives. And then you go to that and then open that up, and there's a really nice timeline of information by decade that you can look at to get a historical perspective of our both of our society, but also just the timeline of scoliosis treatment. And then there's also a members only page that gives you access to abstracts, different artifacts, and in particular, there's over 200 videos, and then you can go and just search by whoever you wanted to look at, and then all the important people in the SRS are interviewed on those videos. So I would recommend that you do that as well. So anyway, thank you, Jay.
Thanks, Rick. George, why don't, if you can, maybe give people a little information about how important it is for people who are working with people who are part of the development of spine deformity surgery, that not only make sure that we get their historical artifacts and everything else, but also to kind of make sure their legacy is maintained in the society.
All right, Jay. Well, I wanted to say to begin with that I've been on, as I mentioned earlier, I've been on this committee for decades, and we have had an absolute explosion of activity with the addition of Katie and with the with the assistance of people like Rachel Davis, who is our societal coordinator for this committee. There is just so many more things we're doing now than we weren't even doing 2 or 3 years ago. I am just amazed, and I'm very pleased with the activities that we've done, and hopefully the membership is going to appreciate the easy access of getting to this material, having it adequately summarized and available to them. The two things I really wanted to mention was, about the artifacts. It's important for those of you who are reading or viewing this podcast or listening to it. If you have artifacts in your home or in your office, you feel it may be important for the society to have, is to contact Katie. I've been amazed that we already have a lot of these things, but there are still things that she doesn't have that will be important for people to have access to in the future. As an example, today I asked Katie if she had a copy of the photograph of the board of directors from my first presidential year in 2007, where we were on the Britannia and all members were in the kilt. And that was actually my gift to the board of directors for that meeting. It was in a nice Celtic frame, and we had extra ones made, and I have 2 extra ones here, and she said she did not have it. I'm certainly going to make sure she gets that, because it's just kind of a classic thing, not only for the picture, but the fact that it was a gift to the board of directors that would make it hopefully something people enjoy seeing over the years. But that's just an example. So if you have things at home, whether it be printed material, photographs that are of unusual nature you feel might be of interest to the membership or the society, send it to Katie. Let her go over it and let her decide whether or not it's something that we would like to have, or and we don't already have a copy of. So I think it's just been critical, and I am extremely pleased with her addition to what we do. I mean, our productivity is unbelievable compared to just a very short time ago. And I look forward to this thing growing and becoming more productive as the years go by. One of the things that I was going to mention, you've heard about Jacqueline Perry. And as an aside for that, I mean, my topic is Les Nash. And Les Nash is one of my previous partners. He's also a past president. He was the past Lifetime Achievement Award winner. And a person that a lot of people don't know about. And Les was the person who developed the clinical application of spinal cord monitoring in the 1970s. Les was a close friend. My wife and I were having dinner with he and his wife about 5 years ago. And I told him of a project that I wanted to do. And I got reamed out. And the one thing was that I felt in my mind, I still feel that way today. And what I'm about to say is probably the singular regret I have about my entire career, is that I felt that Les Nash should be nominated for a Nobel Prize. His work in the clinical application of spinal cord monitoring, even in the very early beginnings when it was somatosensory evoked potentials, to where we are with multimodal applications today, changed the face of what is done in the world, both in children as well as adults. And if that isn't a Nobel Prize worthy accomplishment, I don't know what is. Well, anyway, when I told Les about it, oh my gosh, he would have thought he was yelling at me. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. You can't do that. And I said, well, I might. And the next thing I know, he died the next year. And I regret to this day I didn't do it. I think I could still do it posthumously, but it wouldn't have the same effect to give him the honor that he deserved while he was alive. So anyway, but that's my project, to kind of bring his life forward so that all of you will know who he is and what he did, and have a better appreciation for his accomplishments. Because I know that everybody who's a member of the SRS is using his applications, or the current aspect of his applications today. So anyway, that's my confession of an error I made in my own life, and one I'm still regretting to this day, but one I'm going to change by doing his biography. I also did his obituary, which is published in Spine Deformity, for anybody who may want to see that. And certainly the biography will be just an expansion of what I had in his obituary. So anyway, Jay, those are kind of the 3 points, I guess, I wanted to make today to the listeners or viewers, whichever it may be. But, about look at your own artifacts, because you may be able to contribute to what we're doing. Have an appreciation for where we've been and where we're going. And then just an aspect of my own individual project, which is a very personal project to me. I think the more we know about these people, the more we're going to have an appreciation for what our society does for us and for others. So that's it, Jay. That's all I need to say.
Thanks, George. I appreciate that. Just a quick addendum, not only papers and photographs, but any old instrumentation or things that you think may be of interest, let us know. We're more than interested in not only letters and communications, but also other artifacts and things. One of the things that kind of in closing here, I want to credit Katie for, and something that is going to be a benefit to the rest of the membership moving forward, is that we're in the process of trying to make as much of the archives available online as part of the website as possible. And the website that Rick talked about is now constantly changing, constantly improving. And so I encourage people to go there. Do not be discouraged because there was not a biography or something you were looking for. Those are coming in the future. And Katie is a large part of our ability to digitalize and get onto the website a lot of what's available at the archives in Kansas City. And I think I'll kind of leave it at that. We tend to be historians, so we tend to be a little long-winded, so I apologize for that.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap up there. Thanks to everybody for joining this podcast today, especially to our guests from the history section and all the listeners. I look forward to seeing everybody in a few weeks at the IMAS meeting in Scotland. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thanks, Sammy.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.